Okay, this is to get you ready for the Telpas writing. That's the essay that you have to write in all your classes. You know how you have to write essays. Well, this is just basically a review. Okay, the question is simple. They have a problem similar to this, not exactly, but similar to this, and they ask, hey, can you solve this, right? So solving means we have to find x equal, okay? For this one, it's going to be multiple x's. So the question is, what does x equal? What's the value of x? So in here, I'm going to give you the steps, and then I'm going to work it out so you can have something to look at when you write your essay about how to solve a problem like this. So the first step, okay? So step number uno. Whoa, that was ugly. That looks like a 2. Oh, I just suck at writing. Step number 1 is basically we need to make sure that this little house, okay, that's called a radical. That is isolated. It's by itself. So first step is isolate the radical. Isolate a radical. So in this problem, it's already isolated. This is already in its own side, right? We don't have a plus 3 that we have to move. We don't have any number here that we have to divide. It's just by itself. So then we can move on to the next step. Step number 2 is square both sides. Square sides. So basically we're going to square both sides. So I'm going to say all this side square and all this side square. So whenever we square this side that has a square root, basically this and this undo each other. So we are left in the right side with x plus 1. And in this left side we're left with x minus 5. All of that still square. So after that, the next step to solve this is to expand. So we're going to expand. And that basically means distribute. Whoa. So when we distribute, we're basically going to write this right here. We're going to expand it and write it 2 times. So we're going to write x minus 5 times x minus 5 is equal to x plus 1. And this idea of expanding it means distributing. So we're going to multiply. Whoa, that's not the one I want. We're going to multiply this times this. X times x. Basically we get x squared. And then x times negative 5. We get negative 5x. And then we do this number times x. So negative 5 times x, we get negative 5x. And then negative 5 times negative 5, we get a positive 25. And all of that is still equal to x plus 1. Now, in here, after we expand, we need to combine like terms. So we're going to combine like terms, meaning we are going to get this together. Okay, they have an x and an x, right? So we can combine them. So we get x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to x plus 1. Now remember, our goal, right? Our goal is to get x is equal to and x is equal to, because we're gonna find 2 solutions. So So in here, the next step for us to do that is make everything equal to 0. So step number 5. Everything equal to 0. Make the equation equal to 0, right? So we're going to do that by moving all of this side to the other side. We do that by subtracting 1 and subtracting x. Subtracting x and subtracting 1. Now, 1 minus 1 is 0, and x minus x is 0. So this side is a big old 0. So we have 0 in one side, and then the other side we have x squared minus 11x. When we combine these two, we get 11. They're both negative. So we get 11x plus 24. Notice, in here we can't just isolate x because we have multiple x's. We have x right here and x right here. So when we have x squared, right, what we can do is factor. We've been working on factoring, so this should be a piece of cake. What numbers? I'm going to do it here on the side. Numbers that multiply to 24. So what are factors of 24 that add up, right? We have to add them up to negative 11. So 1 multiplies to 24 and gives you negative 11. Well, let's think. Factors of 24 would be maybe 3 and 8. No. Yes. 8, 9, 10, 11. Do we agree? But they must be negative because if we want to add to that, they must be negative. So negative 3 and negative 8. So we write this as x minus 3. Because of this 3, we put it here. And x minus 8. This negative 8, we put it there. So after we make it equal to 0, right, I didn't put this step down, but step number 6 would be factor. Okay, we might not remember this, but when we have something multiplied times something else and it is equal to 0, we can rewrite this as two equations. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this and this as two different equations. So I'm going to rewrite it here at the top. I'm going to move here to the top and rewrite this as two equations, which one of them is going to be x minus 3. Oh, this looks ugly. X minus 3 is equal to 0, right? I got my first equation from here, and I can make this right here equal to 0, and then I'm going to make this one do the same. So we have the other one, x minus 8 is equal to 0. And then we solve individually. We solve this equation and then this equation. To solve this, we're going to add 3, this goes 0, and I have x is equal to 3. Add 8, we're going to make that equal to 0, and then I have x is equal to positive 8. Now this right here are my supposed answers, but there is one last step. Okay, let me keep writing the steps. Step number 7, make make two equations. Make two equations. Step number 8. After we make the two equations, we need to check the answer. So we need to check this answer and this answer. Okay? So in here, what I'm going to do is basically check if it works. Okay? So the way we do that is we plug back. I'm going to check positive 3, and I'm going to plug it back into the original equation. Okay? Once you plug it back into the original equation, then we need to make sure that it works. So I'm going to write the original equation here. X minus 5 is equal to square root of x plus 1. And instead of this x, I'm going to put 3. So I'm going to erase this x, and I'm going to put 3, and erase this x, and I'm going to put 3. And then you can do the math. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Is equal to square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, and this is negative 2. They are not equal. They're not equal. So that means that 3 right here is not an answer, because in here they were not equal. So this is not an answer. So let's test the other one. I'm going to erase all of this again. We had a x minus and x plus 1, right? I'm using this same thing, and I put it right there. So now instead of this x, I'm going to put 8, because I'm checking 8 now. So I'm going to put 8. 8 minus 5 is 3, and this is the square root of 8 plus 1 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. Is equal to 3. This has the same number, so that means that this is an answer. So this works out. This is a correct answer. That's the only correct answer. So sometimes the one is going to work out and the other one is not. So last step is check. Check answers. These are all the steps to follow to make any problem. So now you're going to use these steps, all of these steps, to do this other problem, right? This is the problem that you are responsible for doing. Make sure you put student name, teacher's name, English teacher, and math teacher. Make sure you put your full name, first and last, correctly, and the date. All that needs to be totally correct. So once again, these are the notes that you might need. Use these notes, and I'm actually going to go really quickly using these notes, using all of these notes to make sure that your other problem works out correctly. So give me just 1 second. So in here, your answers should be, you should get x is equal to 4 and x is equal to 6, and they both work out. So this should be your answers. Okay, if you do not get those answers, Try to figure out why you didn't get the sensors. You can ask your neighbor, but make sure you get this done. Make sure you work out the problem before you actually start writing the essay. Okay.